Well, good morning, everyone. That's not why I was late, but that's why I'm here. Right now, we're starting to get somewhere. Good morning. This is hanging up and I can see it. I'm going to ask y'all to hang on just a minute with me. If this messes up again, I'm going to have to reset the modem. Good morning. I still don't have a decent connection, do I? Well, couple of things before we start. Pardon me. There's a good possibility at 10 o'clock the electricity will go off. They called me yesterday and the day before. So there you go. It's just a crazy connection here right now. I'm hoping it's getting straightened out. Looks like it might. The excuse me. I'm sorry I'm late. Just one of those things. I just sitting there looking, doing some stuff, and lost track of time. I even looked, said, "Oh, mess, 8:30." Okay, went right back to what I was doing. Sometimes I'm just foolish. We're looking at the church at Pergamos. Looking at the church of Pergamos, and we're down to verse 15. The doctrine of Balaam is basically that it's okay to unite with the world. It ain't gonna make hill beans worth the difference. In 15 he says, so hast thou also them that hold the doctrine of the Nicolaitans, which thing I hate. And in a way I apologize because I did say I was going to look more into that. But I didn't. The basic thing that we know about or that we think about the Nicolaitans doctrine is that they were the first to teach a distinction between clergy and laity. That rather than just be brethren, had two classes within the Church of Jesus Christ. Let me tell you, brethren, if I understand doctrine and experience, there's only one class within the Church of Jesus Christ, and that's sinners who have a hope of redemption through Jesus Christ. And I don't care whether you're holding an office or whether you don't. That part doesn't matter. Are you brethren? Well, yeah. Well, be brethren. I don't like all these distinctions. Pardon me. I don't like all this mess. And I hope you don't either. Because it's not biblical. It's not scriptural. Now, under the Old Covenant, yeah, you had a distinction between the tribe of Levi, who did not have an inheritance among the people, and the rest of the tribes of Israel. But they were all Israelites. And here, we're all brethren. I am not sleepy. I don't know why I'm yawning. Ye are all brethren. And distinctions. We looked in the book of Galatians. Remember when we was talking about the distinctions in the flesh? You had you're neither Greek nor Jew, you're neither male nor female, bond or free. None of those things have a relationship within the Church of Jesus Christ now. Because he has chosen you out of this world, because the worldly distinctions are not to be considered in the church. It's a spiritual entity. And it's the same way here, you know. If the doctrine of the Nicolaitans is, as most people think it is, the distinction between classes, as it were, of Christians, then let's just be blunt about it. The church is not a spiritual intellects are right, and the Episcopalians are right, because we can go in here and say, well, the church is this area right here, and everybody that's in it's a part of the church. Baloney. You know, that, trust me, brethren, that's the true basis for open communion. I'll be right back. Downstairs. Come on, sit. I see you sitting by the door, buddy. I'll let you out. The basis for open communion is a denial of the spirituality of the church. And saying that anyone in a given area can come in and be one with us, just regardless of whether you've been baptized, and regardless of anything. You know, you can just be one with us because you want to be. Bodies meet together. Sure, we listen with our natural ears as well as our spiritual ears. But the essence of the church, never forget that. That just because a person after the flesh wants to be a part of it, yeah. Not that anyone really would want to, unless they think there's some material gain in it. You know, I can remember hearing them talk, some of the old heads down there on the Eastern Shore, how that initiation time, the local politicians would all visit and glad hand and on the back and all that, because if they decided to vote as a block, the old Baptists could swing an election. So if most of them, they won't be a part of it, get what they could get. That being the case, if there are no distinctions, why does it only? It's an office. That's why. Now wait a minute. I want to just deal with the first part, and that's baptize. Yes, ordination confers upon one certain things. It's an office. And if you want to call that a distinction, I'm going to let you do it, okay? What I'm talking about in distinctions is a distinction as a class, like aristocracy versus serf, like lord versus knight, things of that nature. That's the distinction I'm talking about. There is a distinction in the office, and that is only that the those who are chosen by the church, so to speak, and I'm going to say that because it's historic usage, we all know that the church is merely recognizing what they believe the Lord has given to one. In that ordination, they're giving them, they're conferring upon them the church's authority to baptize and to serve the supper. But that's not a distinct, that's a distinction as a gift, okay? The one, it's not a distinction based on anything other than the gifts that the Lord has given. He has not given us the same gifts. But it doesn't make one greater or lesser in the church of God, depending on which gift that he's given you. You know, when you look at it and you think of all these things, immediately you think of preaching and you think of teaching and that sort of thing. But there's always given his children and what I'm trying to say is that regardless of the spiritual gift that one has, we're all still one and we're all still equal in the church. In the Jesus, in the assembly that he has built and is building, there is not one higher up than the other. Was that the clergy's up here and the laity's down here. When in reality, if you think about it, the clergy's down here and the laity's up here. Because we are to serve, we are to minister to, and said we should do the same. See, I'm looking at this like a class distinction, like in India where you got the caste system. Nicolaitanism, the clergy is a higher caste than the laity given you. The body's, you know, how did Paul describe the body? He said, you're not all a head, you're not all a foot. You're not all a hand. Every part is necessary in the body. That's right. Every part is necessary. And just because one has an office over here, a gift of the Spirit, doesn't mean that one's above the other. And that's the thing. That's the thing. We can't have those kinds of distinctions because we're all brethren. And think of this. Is there in you that could merit esteem or give the Creator delight? 'Twas even so, Father, you ever must say, because it seems good in thy sight. You deal in Christ as children. If we were all in there as seed, if we all make up the bride, and so, Father, thou ever must say, because, not because it seemed good in my sight or your sight, but in his sight who made the choice. This is where imputed righteousness is so important. Because you got a whole bunch of people out there. Listen to me now and think about what I'm saying. Think about what I'm saying. You got a whole bunch of people out there that say, we were chosen in Him. But you know what? We got to maintain good works. We got to get blessings in heaven. We got to have extra crowns. So I got to get busy and get to work. Listen to me now. Think about this. If you have a boast, don't you? What did Paul say? Where's boasting? It's excluded. All right. Now, why did I say this is where imputed righteousness becomes We all believe that the righteousness of Christ was absolutely perfect, don't we? I don't think anyone who would listen to this say that there is any kind of defect in the righteousness of Christ. Righteousness could be because it's the righteousness of God manifested in the flesh through Jesus Himself. What righteousness is imputed to you? That perfect, without spot or blemish, glorious, righteousness, one bit of merit in, you cannot claim one bit of works in, etc., etc. If I'm one of His, that's what's been imputed to me. That's been imputed into every one of His children. That's why when we read what Balaam, just go back there and read that again in the book of Numbers. He hath not beheld iniquity in Jacob, neither hath he seen perverseness in Israel. The Lord his God is with him. Listen to me. Tell you what. Listen to me, folks. And mark this down in your little book if you got a little book to mark it down in. Not a one of spiritual Israel, not a one of the seed of Christ differs in righteousness. Listen to me, how therefore are you going to get a bigger reward than your neighbor for what you've done? Isaiah, the Lord said through Isaiah about your righteousnesses. And yes, go look, it's plural. There's filthy rags bag. That's your righteousness. That's the best you can do. So why do you want to trust in that for anything? You can't trust in that to get you to heaven. Why do you think it's going to get you a reward? Have a crown not because of what you've done, but because of who you are. When that robe of righteousness is put on you, when you are clothed upon with your house from heaven, and that robe of righteousness is set on your shoulders, as it were, Where's the distinction between you and that neighbor that you look down upon? Sure. And we know that we're just as bad as the worst of our neighbors, and if the Lord would withhold his restraining grace, we'd probably be worse. We know that the flesh is still the flesh, and we know that we can't get rid of it till death. And oh, how sweet to die. To be free from every blessing. Oh, that day when free from sinning, I shall see thy lovely face, richly clothed in blood-washed linen, there to sing redeeming grace, or thy solace, depending on which book you have. Come, dear Lord, no longer tarry, bear my rapture. No, bear my raptured soul on high. Speak the word thou spake to Moses. Die. That's what you want. Because you know what we were. Despair might overwhelm us. The Lord just shows us in part. Just like he shows us himself in part. We see ourselves in part as well. Somebody talks about that just for preachers, but that's not the case. It's for everyone, because everyone whom God has set forth in this building has placed as a living stone within his building. All are gifted in some regards, in some respect. Not a one of them earned it. Not a one of them studied enough to get them a merit badge in it. Not a one of them practiced it. They have it from the hand of Jesus Christ. They have. We talk about the gift of grace. And if I am, correct me in love. But too many times we talk about the gift of grace as if it's a one-time thing when we're born from above and the Spirit of God comes into us. Grace. It is a gift of grace, but it's not the gift of grace, because God continuously gives us grace. And he gives us according to the measure of faith too. Faith he gives us to believe it. Grateful hearts his love to prize. You think that's the case? No. The gift of grace, I'm going to put it this way, is a continual thing in the life of the child of God. You may say, well, I don't feel the grace of God all the time. Well, so what? Aren't you glad your salvation's not based on your feelings? Even though God has redeemed us, and he's given us emotions, and he's given us feelings, and he's given us all sorts of things, and we've got them, and we feel. Isn't it wonderful that we can? Don't. And what are we going to do? Are we just going to write off all our experiences? Yes, a lot of times we think we can write off all our experiences that we've had before as something just that we dreamed up out of our own feeble imaginations, or something that we thought had happened that probably never did, and things of that nature. Yes, we can death with a rod, can't we? But salvation's not based on feelings. Salvation is based on the work of Jesus Christ. And when he is pleased, and I'll say this, brethren, it is grace that gives you everything that you have gotten experientially in your Christian life. Well, man, I've had some troubles. It's grace that brought you through them. You get down spiritually. You get down physically. That's grace. You can do your duty. You can try to work. You can try to get sick. We could take medicine and we could get a little better. But let me tell you something. If God doesn't bless that medicine too, you believe that? You believe that? It's grace that brings you into the depth. For you to see your need of the Lord. Now, brethren, I know that this kind of off the subject of the Nicolaitans, but still, it isn't, because we all experience these things. This shows the unity of the body. This shows that we all go through similar experiences. Now, are the details of mine exactly like yours? Absolutely not. I would be very surprised if they were. If the details of yours was exactly like your brother or sister over here, I'd be very surprised. But we can fellowship in our experiences because we've been lifted up. We've been brought down. We've been lifted up again. When I think of this sometimes, I'm given to think of Peter. There he was, full of confidence, full of fleshly zeal. Oh, takes Jesus aside and says, Lord, you can't talk like that. What do you mean you're going up to be killed? Oh, man, he's got a zeal, doesn't he? He can rebuke the Lord of glory. Be that far from thee. The Son of Man's going to be betrayed. He's going to die. Oh, they may all forsake you, but I won't. I'm going to stand with you all the way. Man, I'm your soldier. I'm your guard. Jesus looked at him and said, before the cock crows, you're going to deny me 3 times. Can you imagine what Peter must have thought? Yeah, right. All men might deny him, but I won't. You know, John over there, he's kind of a sissy. He might deny him, but not me. There he was, sitting beside the fire. He didn't even go in the house with Jesus. Kind of trying to hide himself, because everybody's saying, man, aren't you? I've seen you with him. Oh, what you talking about? Why, you're a Galilean because you talk like one. You must be one of his disciples. No. Well, this man's one of his, and swore and said, I don't know him. And what happened? The cock crowed. His righteousness. He had gone from stating how great a work he would do for the Lord to being ambivalent to falling. Jesus looked at him and he knew everything he had said was proven right then to be a lie. That everything he could muster up in the flesh was doomed to perish. That every good thing he could think about, everything, meant nothing. The word of the Lord stood, and he had denied him. I think that's why the Lord, Peter, it didn't stop the Lord from loving him, from being a child. It didn't even stop him from being the rock, being a stone. No, he was still all of those things. But boy, he didn't feel it, did he? I believe he felt himself lower down than an ant. When the Lord came to him, he said, Peter, do you love me? Feed my sheep. Do you love me? Jesus knew Peter loved him. Peter, he wasn't asking him for information's sake. He was reinforcing in Peter's own experience. Yes, I love you. Feed my lambs. Do you love me? Thou knowest I love you. He didn't look at Peter and say, why did you deny me? He didn't need an explanation. And he doesn't need explanations for our behavior from us. Do you love me? And let me tell you something. If the love of God has been shed abroad in your heart, you might fall just as low as Peter did. But you're going to be brought back in that love. You're going to be brought back into that love, just like Peter was. He didn't say, Peter, now you need to believe all over again and get saved here and pray the prayer and do all his sin, did he? He just said, do you love me? Do you love me? Peter, my goodness. Well, brethren, seems like we talked about everything but the Nicolaitans. I want to get off here because I don't want this interrupted if they do cut the power off for about an hour today at 10. So I want to be off here. $9.50, okay. Does anybody have any questions or comments? I hate it that it can get the cable internet turned on over there today. Well, I won't get it turned on today, but I'm going to sign up today. We'll be over there by the end of the week, Lord willing. Everything goes as planned. See what happens. I did talk to a young lady who was supposed to call me back. She never did. So, if this works out, it'd be wonderful. Get rid of this up and down internet. Finish fixing up my desktop computer so I can have it over there. Excuse me, brother. Goodness. Like I say, I don't know why I'm yawning, because I'm not sleepy. I slept good last night. Let's bow in dismission. Let's bow in a word of prayer. If you have anything else, you can leave it. Heavenly Father, thank you. Wisdom from yourself. Open their eyes and ears, and give them the riches of thy grace. We thank thee that thou hast given us righteousness above anything we could create with our own hands. Because a lot of times we just kind of pass them. A lot of times we just pass them by. Don't let us do that. Give us thankful hearts for all that thou hast done for us. Be with us and hold us in thy right hand and keep us. Give us a feeling sense of thy. Wrap us up in thy arms and cover us over. Being here, thank you for your attention, your comments. I thank you for bearing with me as we go through this. As efficient as I'd like to be. Brother Lloyd Ball used to say that there's some truth in that, isn't there? But, Lord willing. What is today? Tuesday? Yes. Wednesday we'll be back in the book of Ephesians. Back in the book of Revelation on Thursday. Friday, look at Parker as an editor with some of his other work against Alexander Campbell and the early Campbell. So, if there's nothing else, brethren, I think